Okay, so that's started, and then it's in the chat. So being in the chat, I think. Hello. Okay, so basically, just to just to cover every loose end concerning what Yetunde asked. So let me just go over functions again. So functions are basically block of codes that you write for the basis of reusability. So you want to be able to reuse a particular piece of your code, then you write a function to be able to wrap it, so that over time you can always call that same function with different kinds of arguments to be able to return value, or be able to create a side effect. So functions will do basically two things basically. So the first thing is either a function creates a side effect, or a function returns a value. Hello. So an example of a function creating a side effect is if I have a function, more like let's say function update var, sorry, update var, and I say have a parenthesis, then open a curly brace, then I say okay, at the top of the function I say let my var be equal to 3. Then inside of my function body, I'll say my var equals 4. Does that make sense? Then I come outside of my function, I do console.log my, and then here, let me just go on to call the function update var. And just so we don't forget, let's start this with live server. So let's start with live server. Open a console. So opening the console. So you can see that doing a console.log of my var, we actually get a value of 4. Meanwhile, what we did was to reassign my var inside the body of a function. So what you refer to this kind of changes to your program is, you refer to it as a side effect. So you actually use your function to effect a change in your overall program. Does that make sense? Hello. So you could also have another function, say my array, and then my array can be 1. What's that? Jesus, what did I do? Can somebody please check the live stream? Hello? Hello? Okay. So we can have an array. Then the array we have 1, 2. Who is that? Do I have a twin brother? Okay. So okay, Laura, thank you. Okay, I think it's coming from your YouTube feedback. So so we have my R. So I can also do something like my R dot push, and I push 4. So and when I can do a console. So you can see now that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically, we are actually using a function to affect the state of our program in general. So whenever your function does something like this, you refer to it as a side effect. So it's more like you're telling a story in your code basically. So one line is a statement, the next line is another statement. So with a function, you decide to carry out an update on a particular line or a particular expression. So when you use a function in that manner, your function can be, said to be creating a side effect. Does that make sense? So that's for one thing that your function can do. So let's just get rid of all of this. So other than okay, let me leave that and comment it out. So other than create side effects, and let me just put that here. Your function also can return a value. So we can have from keyword. So you can say return val, and then that's going to return let's say let magic return magic num. You get the point? And in this case, of course, when we call our function, nothing happens in the console because we are basically returning a value. So what we can do here is that because when you return a value, automatically your function consolidates into a single value when you call it or invoke it. So what you can do is you can decide to do console.log return val, and then you call it, and then you call it like this. Then of course you get a value. Does that make sense? So here you can actually you are seeing that we are returning a value from our function. Meanwhile here, what we did was to create a side effect with our function. So those two things are very important things for you to understand. So if you can understand these two things, you actually understand how functions work basically. Hello? Hello? Yeah. So is that clear? Hello? Yeah. So what exactly is the problem with this statement? Okay, you know that I said we are going to be going, like I just wanted to kind of do it. Okay. Go on, go on. Yeah, okay, let's just so but just understand these two things, side effect and returning a value. Those are the two basic things you'll be doing with functions, all of your endeavors. So now let's deal with control flows. So when we are dealing with control flow, basically what we are doing is we are trying to when we are writing programs, it contains several statements, definitely. When I talked about expressions, and then I talk about statements, can anybody remember? So I said basically that expressions basically are all about just can be just a basic, like the smallest fragment of your code, like maybe just write the number 2. You wrote something like maybe x is greater than y, and an expression could be any of the following. But a statement is a more meaningful kind of expression. So basically a statement can combine more than one expression to actually make meaning. Do you understand that? So basically for control flow, you want to actually refer to your program as though your program is you actually reading a couple of statements from top to bottom. So it can also be similar to you traveling along a straight line. So you go from one point to the other and one point leading to another. So control flow actually manages how your program goes from one point to the other. What decisions your program will need to take at one point or the other is determined by control flow. And there are several features in JavaScript to actually help you, manage and handle this control flow effectively, which include things like, if statements, loops, and switch statements, and so on, which we are going to be looking at in a bit. But basically, understand that your program has a flow. And like I said to you before, that flow is from top to bottom. But at times, you just want to be able to, maneuver and manipulate how that flow actually goes, so that you determine which statement is going to be run and under what conditions, that kind of thing. So it's basically you controlling how the computer reads your statement and how the computer executes your code. Does that make sense? Hello? Okay. So let's just take a simple statement, for example. Hmm? Let's take a simple statement, for example. So when we have something like